Hi there everyone, so I'm back here today to show you the second stage of making the fairy house. Today we're going to be painting. So this is the one I made before, and you can see that I've used a blend of colours. I used kind of yellow ochre and orange, a little bit of bright yellow and some deep reds and some green at the base. So it's quite natural, the colouring on that one. Today I'm going to be working more with turquoises and blues. I think it's a good idea to decide a colour scheme before you start painting, rather than just putting lots of paints out and deciding, oh, I'll just paint whatever I think. It's good to actually have a plan in mind. If you do change your mind, you can always paint them white again and then paint up the top, so it's not too difficult. So I'll just run through the things that you need to finish off the project. You need acrylic paints. And here's a selection of the blues and the greens that I put out. And here I put a selection of kind of pink and red and purple and yellow, thinking that might be another combination to go with. And then there's a couple of gold paints here as well, a gold outliner and a gold acrylic, which might be nice for finishing off. And you need some brushes. And here you can see I've put out a fan brush. These little fan brushes can be quite reasonable to pick up nowadays actually, and they're fantastic for doing light strokes of colour over another colour, which is, you know, it makes a lovely effect, and it's an easy way to blend colours if you find blending difficult. You need water and some tissue maybe for mopping up. Okay, let's make a start. I've decided to start with the deeper blues and purples at the base and then work my way up to the turquoises. I think that would look nice. I'm going to use the biggish brush and a good bit of water. You can always do second coats. You can see how the clay is absorbing the colour. I quite like that, where you get almost a wash of colour. To me it looks a little bit more authentic than putting a heavy solid colour on, but it is totally up to you. And use the tip of your brush just to kind of work into all those details that we made when we were doing the markings. You can see how when I'm stroking the paint on, it's kind of a little bit darker and deeper in the crevices, and I'm just mixing tiny bits of other colour in and blending it softly around as I go around the house. It's nice to try to change the colours a little bit, gives it a little bit of a flow. Now this one is a kind of a metallic acrylic, which is nice as well for this kind of project. Gives a little bit of a sheen. Once again, just adds a little bit of interest. If you come up to the windows and you find it hard to use a big brush like this, swap to a smaller brush for getting into those little detail places. You want to try and catch all the clay. You see, I'm just going slightly deeper on the colour there around the window frame. gives it a little bit more, gives the window a little bit more presence. Just trust your instincts, go with what feels right as you're painting, and picking up the different shades. Now, when you start coming into sort of detail like this, you might want to start going back into some of the deeper colours again, just to give definition. So I'm working back a little bit of purple into there, where the shadow would be, and doing that just increases the form that you've created. So if you're going into deeper crevices, perhaps go with the deeper colours, and then when you come to the bits which are sort of sticking out like this, maybe work with lighter colours. No definite rights or wrongs, but it's just an idea for kind of helping to increase the look, the form of it. Okay, I'm going to go for the roof. I think I'm going to go for a slightly more greeny look. So I've used a little bit of green in with the turquoise. Once again, pick up more colour here and there. You could go back to a little bit of blue again. You don't have to keep it one whole steady colour. I think that these look really nice when they're not painted in solid colours. It looks a lot more natural to me. I'm going to have to go underneath there, but I'll leave that to dry. And I'm just going to maybe go back to the darker blue for the apex of the roof. As you see, I'm not painting carefully. I'm really just blending the colours so that you get a natural look, rather than trying to kind of paint something in a very solid, sort of stiff way. Okay. It's looking quite interesting. Quite different to the look of the other one. Now, the windows and the doors, I'm just wondering, it might be nice to add a slightly different colour. I'll try with a little bit of this red here. Deep red goes really, really well with turquoise. That might be too much of a jump, so I'm going to put a little bit of purple in with it. As you see, I'm using the smaller brush here, but I might go back to the bigger brush later and blend the two in. I'm finding that a little bit too much of a jump, so I'm going to put the darker blue on the inside. Just try and keep the colours more blended together, and then go back around the outside and kind of almost just rubbing. The paint is still quite wet, so rubbing the colours together so you get that feeling of the colours blending. I'm going to do the same thing with the door, but I think I'm going to go for using the green. There's a little doorknob there. I'm trying to avoid that. It doesn't matter if you catch paint up it, because like I was saying, the way that the paint it works best is if you use it quite loosely. Acrylic paint is actually a very, very adaptable paint. You can use it in so many ways. You can use it very thickly, and it creates one kind of effect, but you can also use it almost in a kind of watercolour kind of a way, which is also really interesting. And the lovely thing about acrylic is, unlike watercolours, once it has dried, it is fully waterproof. So for any project where you wanted to do something for sort of outdoor work, very, very handy, because it can stand up to the rain. And once again, like I did before, I think I put the blue right on the inside of this. Just gives it that kind of bit of depth when you're looking at the door. Maybe the shapes in the door. Okay, back to the next window. I'll try adding a tiny bit of yellow here. Once again, just to give a slight difference in the colours. So I'm going to go back to the green, but make it a more yellowy kind of colour. Probably notice I'm working quite quickly, which is maybe something you think you shouldn't be doing because you're painting quite detailed things. But the painting quickly and the working quickly with the paint slightly runny allows you to blend the colour. Whereas if you were painting very, very slowly, just going to go back over again with the bigger brush and blend those colours together. You might see the plastic bottle picks up a bit of paint. That can always be wiped off carefully with a bit of tissue or a cloth or something afterwards. So don't worry about it too much if you do get paint on here. You see the way that I'm working, it's creating a much more flowing kind of look. Just going to work back a bit of that green now. Try and bring those colours together a little bit more. Maybe a little bit of... This is where it gets nice. You can just kind of, even using the fan brush, using the paint in, once again, quite a runny way. If you just flick over the top with the fan brush, you can bring other colours into it without actually painting it a colour. It's more just giving it a little bit of a hint of colour here and there, which brings the whole thing together. Okay, so it's looking quite fairy-ish. I'm just going to go back into the... Might be a bit wet, I don't know. Go back into the bit underneath here. See if we can work our way into that. I'm going to go back to the purple because it's an underside of something with a little bit of the red. Just to, as I was saying before, when you paint the undersides of things or the crevices a darker colour, it increases the look of the depth of it. Just helps the shape of the fairy house to stand out more. If you painted the whole thing the same colour, it would be even, the depth would be even all the way around, as this helps to highlight the shapes. As you can see, I'm still using the paint in quite a runny way, just dragging it gently over the top. And I'm also going to go into this crevice here, underneath this bit here. Once again, it's giving the look, the form of it, more shape. This little metallic paint, I'm just skimming that over the surface in places, which is picking up on the highlights. So going back to the sort of the shadows and the highlights, the tip of say the roof, with something that's a lighter colour, or this kind of this little metallic colour, which just gives it a little hint of life. You know, not necessarily sparkle, but a hint of highlight. Okay, I think we're getting there. Nice match to the other one, quite different. I'm going to go to my gold, I think. So I'm just finishing up in here with a tiny dusting of gold. This is pure gold acrylic. It's not very cheap, in that it would be maybe about €8 for a tube, but it goes a really long way, and it's nice to have it, and you'll use it for lots of projects. So investing in gold is maybe a good idea. So you can see, all I'm doing is just using the fan brush and very lightly in places, kind of dusting over the top. And I'm also picking out the edges of the doors and the windows with the gold. Gold is really nice for bringing a little bit of warmth to something when you're colouring like this, because it's turquoises and blues, quite cool. But the gold, without adding yellow, just adds this lovely little bit of warmth, which is really nice. You can use it neat, or you can use it with a little bit of water in it, like this. Probably with a little bit of water. Oops. You can make it go further. I think that's done. I don't want to do any more to that now. Okay, thank you.